The Neltharions Shadow Wing is the third wing in Aberrus The Shadowed Crucible raid. It is home to Magmorax and the Echo of Neltharion. Very quickly going to describe how this guide is set up. The video is split into chapters for each boss. You can find them down below. The first chapter will describe the boss fight mechanics and each of the important abilities. The second chapter will be role-specific duties. Magmorax. This is a single phase fight that relies on solid healers and solid DPS numbers. The goal of this fight is to kill the boss before he reaches 100 energy. If he reaches 100 energy, he enrages and will wipe the raid. Magmorax has two main mechanics. The first mechanic, the boss will use players to spawn magma puddles around the arena that will continuously grow in size. Normally you avoid magma. However, with this boss, players will need to stand in the magma in order to make the pools disappear. Players need to place these pools away from the boss and then stand in them to absorb them. The boss will soft enrage if he is standing in a magma pool. The second main mechanic is during Igniting Roar. There will be various locations on the arena marked with swirlies where magma is falling. One player in each circle must soak this attack, as missing this attack will deal raid-wide damage and create an additional magma puddle. One minor note, Magmorax does have a knockback ability, so be aware of where you are standing so you don't get blown off the platform. Magmorax's abilities. Catastrophic Eruption. Reaching 100 energy, he enrages, increasing physical damage done by 150% and blasting the entire raid every 2 seconds with fire damage with a stackable debuff. Molten Spittle. Random players will get marked with a ticking debuff that puts a red ring around your character. Spread out and away from the boss, as once the debuff expires it will drop a magma pool. Igniting Roar. Magmorax will deal a burst of damage to the raid and apply a stack of Igniting Roar to each player. This dot will stack and does not disappear until the boss is defeated. Each igniting stack will also trigger Lava Injection. Lava Ejection. During Igniting Roar, various locations will be marked on the arena where magma is being launched. One player must stand in this circle and soak this attack. The player that soaks this attack will not be able to soak the next lava ejection, as it applies a debuff that increases lava ejection damage by 150%. Magma puddles. These are formed from molten spittle and lava ejection. These slowly grow in size if no player is standing in them. At least one player needs to stand in the middle of the magma puddle in order to make it disappear. While soaking the puddle, it will apply a stacking searing heat debuff. This debuff deals damage every second for 20 seconds. Another note here, multiple players standing in each puddle will make the puddle disappear quicker. However, both players will still obtain stacks. Blazing Tantrum. This is the buff applied to the boss if he is standing in a magma puddle. It deals raids-wide damage every second until the boss is moved. Overpowering Stomp. The boss stomps, inflicting damage and knocking all players backwards. Blazing Breath. Magmorax breathes magma in a frontal cone. Incinerating Maws. This is the Tank Buster. It deals big physical damage, applies a fire dot, and applies a debuff that increases Incinerating Maws damage by 50% for 30 seconds. Role-specific duties. Tanks. Keep Magmorax away from magma puddles. Taunt swap after each incinerating maws. Make sure you face the middle of the arena during Overpowering Stomp so you aren't thrown into the lava. Healers. Overall damage increases as this fight drags on. The Igniting Roar debuff deals damage to the entire raid and will deal more damage as the fight drags on. Players soaking the magma will suffer increasing damage until it expires. Players knocked back from the stomp will take massive damage if they are thrown off of the platform. DPS. Utilize a single target build. Soak magma puddles and watch your searing heat stacks. Don't soak the lava ejection until your previous lava ejection debuff has expired. Use defensive cooldowns after soaking puddles. Watch your positioning during the Overpowering Stomp. The Echo of Neltharion. This is a 3-phase fight that really steps up the mechanics and requires people to constantly pay attention. The raid needs to stay grouped together, as Neltharion will summon walls inside the arena, limiting the amount of space you can move. If players are caught on the opposite side of the wall, they will not be able to deal damage or heal. Once the walls are up, you can move within that area. The raid will need to destroy parts of these walls in order to progress through this fight. Sections of the wall can be destroyed by using the boss's knockback attacks. If a player is knocked back against a wall, it will shatter. These broken walls also regenerate, so it is important for the raid to move together. Phase 1. This phase lasts until Neltharion reaches 60% HP. Once engaged, he will cast Twisted Earth, which will summon walls throughout the arena, marked by swirlies on the ground. These walls always spawn in the same area. Neltharion has 2 abilities that destroy these walls: Rushing Darkness, which targets random raid members, and Calamitous Strike, which is the Tank Buster. Volcanic Heart will place a ring around random raid members, and they should run away from the rest of the raid. Ideally, the raid should stay loosely stacked on the boss, and the players targeted with Rushing Darkness and Volcanic Heart should be the ones to move away. The deadly mechanic here is Echoing Fissure. Once Neltharion hits the tank with Calamitous Strike, he will then cast Echoing Fissure. This is a large AoE ability, and the raid must run through the opening in the wall in order to escape the attack. This repeats until Neltharion hits 60% HP. Phase 1 abilities. Twisted Earth. Neltharion raises walls around the arena. If walls are already raised, this will repair all broken sections. Volcanic Heart. Neltharion places a debuff on random players. This expires after 7 seconds and explodes, dealing damage to any other player caught in the circle. This also applies a 15-second dot. Rushing Darkness. Targets several players and hits them, knocking them back. Any players caught in the line between the boss and the players targeted will also be knocked back and silenced. Players knocked into walls will cause them to shatter. Echoing Fissure. This is a massive AoE ability that deals massive damage. Run through the wall openings in order to avoid this. Calamitous Strike. This is the Tank Buster. It inflicts physical damage and knocks the tank away. It applies a debuff that increases damage taken by 50% for 40 seconds. The next two abilities are minor, and they are present in every phase, and they don't change, so I will only be listing them here. Shatter. This occurs when a player is knocked into a wall and destroys it. Shatter will deal damage to that player that broke the wall, and then apply a dot to the entire raid that lasts 14 seconds. On LFR, this does not stack. However, on normal difficulty, this dot does stack. Shattered Rock. When a player breaks the wall, rock pieces will fly off, marked by swirlies on the ground. This is easily avoidable. Phase 1 role-specific duties. Tanks. Taunt swap after each Calamitous Strike. Tanks should be knocked into walls to give the raid an exit from Echoing Fissure. The tank that is swapping should pull Neltharion away from the opening to give the raid more room to escape. Healers. Volcanic Heart will deal damage over 15 seconds. Expect raid damage each time a wall piece is broken, and avoid the lines by rushing darkness, as you will be silenced. DPS. Let the tanks break the walls. Get knocked against the edge of the room when targeted with rushing darkness. Keep distance with Volcanic Heart. Pay attention to your feet and what wall sections are broken. Don't get separated from the group when running from Echoing Fissure. Phase 2. At 60% HP, Neltharion will destroy all the walls and then create new ones in a different pattern. He will also summon 3 adds that must be killed in order to proceed to Phase 3. If Neltharion reaches 35% HP and an add is still alive, they will shield the boss, reducing all damage taken by 99%. These adds do not have any special abilities, they are stationary and are shielded. Once the shield is destroyed, they will pulse raid damage until they are killed. Neltharion still uses Rushing Darkness and Volcanic Heart, so Phase 1 mechanics still apply. Periodically, Neltharion will channel Umbral Annihilation. This will deal raid damage and increase in damage by 10% with each cast. The final new mechanic is tank related, Sunder Shadow and Shadow Strike. Neltharion will hit the tank with Sunder Shadow. The tank will be separated from their physical body and exist in a shadow form. This allows them to run through walls. Neltharion will then follow up with Shadow Strike, which will cause the physical body to return to the shadow form. The physical body will destroy any walls it comes into contact with while returning to the shadow. Phase 2 abilities. Twisted Earth. Raises the walls around the arena and repairs broken ones. Surrender to Corruption. This is cast when transitioning from Phase 1 to Phase 2. Neltharion pulses damage to every player. Volcanic Heart. This is a debuff on random players. It expires after 7 seconds and explodes, dealing damage to any other player caught in the circle. Also applies a 15-second dot. Rushing Darkness targets several players and hits them, knocking them back. Any players caught in lines between the boss and the player targeted will also be knocked back and silenced. Umbral Annihilation. Neltharion periodically inflicts damage to the entire raid and applies a stackable debuff. On LFR, each cast increases damage by 10%, and on normal, each cast increases damage by 100%. Sunder Shadow. This is the Tank Buster Part 1. Neltharion separates the tank from its physical body. While in shadow form, the tank should run to the other side of a wall, where the add is located. Shadow Strike. This is the Tank Buster Part 2. Neltharion will hit the tank's physical body, causing it to return to where its shadow form is located. This breaks any walls in that path. This also applies a debuff that increases Sunder Shadow damage by 300% for 40 seconds. The Phase 2 adds. These adds don't have any special abilities to watch for. They are stationary and have an absorb shield. Once that shield is destroyed, they will begin dealing pulsing raid damage until killed. If any adds are alive when the boss reaches 35% HP, then they will shield the boss and reduce the damage he takes by 99%. Phase 2 role-specific duties. Tanks. When hit with Sunder Shadow, run through the wall sections to the next add. Taunt swap after each Shadow Strike. Healers. Volcanic Heart will deal damage over 15 seconds. Expect raid damage each time a wall piece is broken. Umbral Annihilation will increase in damage with each cast. The add will deal raid-wide damage once its shield is broken. DPS. Let the tanks break the walls. Get knocked against the edge of the room when targeted with Rushing Darkness. Keep distance with Volcanic Heart, and use defensive cooldowns on higher Umbral Annihilation stacks. Phase 3. The final phase begins once all 3 adds are killed. Neltharion will destroy all walls and create new ones. The main difference here is that the raid does not want to destroy any sections of the wall, and the raid will also have to deal with continuously spawning adds. The boss will spawn portals replacing the walls. These portals will spawn adds that will chase players. These portals are also needed in order to avoid the deadly Ebon Destruction ability. Ebon Destruction will kill any player if they are not standing inside of a portal at the end of the cast. Once Ebon Destruction finishes casting, it will despawn any portals that players stood in. The raid should split into groups in order to close portals to lower the amount of adds they are dealing with. However, you don't want to remove all of the portals and have none to stand in when the next Ebon Destruction is cast. Those portals reduce the damage players do by 99%, so players should wait until the last second before jumping into a portal. Rushing Darkness and the Tank Buster Calamitous Strike return for this phase. Phase 3 Abilities. Sunder Reality. Neltharion converts wall pieces into portals. These portals will continuously spawn adds. Sundered Reality. This applies to players that are standing inside of a portal. This deals damage every 1.5 seconds and reduces their damage done by 99%. Ebon Destruction. This is the lethal attack for any player not standing in a portal. This also removes any portals that have players standing inside them. Rushing Darkness. This targets several players and hits them, knocking them back. Any players caught in the lines of the boss and the player targeted will also be knocked back and silenced. Calamitous Strike. This is the Tank Buster. It inflicts physical damage and knocks the tank away. It applies a debuff that increases damage taken by 50% for 40 seconds. Phase 3 Role-Specific Duties. Tanks. Don't break any walls. Taunt swap after each Calamitous Strike. Pull adds to the boss. Healers. Expect raid damage while players are standing inside of portals. DPS. Help pull adds to your tanks. Run to the edge of the room with Rushing Darkness. Wait until the last second before standing in a portal. So that's the third wing of Aberrus The Shadowed Crucible. Show some support by pressing that like button. If you like that cheat sheet at the start of this video, you can find a link to it in the pinned comment and description down below. Check out my channel for guides on the rest of the raids. Subscribe if you enjoy WoW content. I have guides, tips and tricks, podcasts, and more. Super thanks, channel memberships, and Patreon perks are also available if you are interested in further supporting the channel. I'll see you in the next one.